from our friends at Del Monte. It's grown in Costa Rica, and we know Costa Rica has a really powerful volcanic ash. People want you to squirt liquids in your intestines, coffee, enema, and this and that, and going to a special spa where they squirt things back there to get it to clean out. But of course, we know that kills your intestinal flora. So much better to eat and drink and cleanse somewhat more naturally with food and fiber. It's shocking what I went through in the last 24 hours in that pink glow. No one wants a bad result from the colonoscopy. But in any case, we have this NYX Eyeshadow Base, this ESB01 White Blanc color. I have another color that's more like nude. I can't find it. But I was actually going in earlier with this e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer in this shade, which I think would really mess up our eyeshadow, right? We want the colors to be true to what's in the pan. We don't, you know, this will give you a truer color. It's a little too pale for our skin, but this, I'm not sure what this is about. I can't even figure it out. Maybe I'll have to look it up in a makeup tutorial. But we use this big fat not e.l.f., it's an Eco Tools brush. And it says that it is a eye perfecting brush. It's so big. Look how big it is. Stars, it's a big one. So there's something satisfying about the bigness and the shape of it, because it really did give me, it gave me a lot of, you know, a lot of payoff, right? This is the big mirror, right? They say look down into your mirror. I'm using the magnifying side so that you can see me, right? And kind of tapping that transition shade. It's probably the only shade in the whole palette that could be a transition shade. It's called Celestial. There's a lot of dark and there's only one sort of pale neutral color, and this is it. And it reads kind of more pink on my skin than it does in the pan. So we've laid that down and we're looking very spooky, but you know, we got a lot of brushes and we're ready to rock. So from here, we want to get into that outer crease with somewhat of a precise kind of pencil style brush, cruelty free, right? We've got our fun shirt on from Target. We have a lot of metallic shimmers in this palette and not a lot of mattes. I think there's one matte shade, so I think we're gonna have to go for it. We use that transition shade. What should we do? Let's think about our inner corner and what kind of color we want over there. So if we put this fun copper shade in our inner corner, then maybe our outer corner should be this Athena color, which is a very rich and glowy. It's not a shimmer, it is a metallic, right? It's not a glitter, but it is a metallic, right? But getting this loaded onto our brush and thinking about stamping it on, not stippling, but stamping, so that we're not, you know, hopefully having a lot of fallout, but we're also being precise about working this into our lash line. And then we want to look forward into our mirror so that we can actually see that V, right? Hooded eye. We need to see that shade when the eye is open. If we tuck it into the crease, we won't ever see it, you know, and that's not good. It's like waiting for the Easter Bunny. It may be a man in a costume, but will it be the real Easter Bunny? Unclear. Thinking about a lifted shape that goes out toward the tail of that eyebrow, right? Thinking about all that great makeup that used to be done on Victoria's Secret angels, right? And I think Charlotte Tilbury really was iconic in designing that, you know, a lot of those very strong, iconic makeup looks. But, you know, we want the shade variation to show. We had such a good time with that BH Cosmetics Lost in Los Angeles yesterday. Believe me, I was tempted to work with it again. I looked at my work on the video that I produced and it just blew me away. And I really need to stop doing makeup at night, but I went to the gym. I had a long discussion with the maintenance workers in the gym, and It was a little dramatic, but you know, look at that. Woman, Julia Fox, right? Going dark, going lifted, being aggressive about that shape, flowing out toward the tail end of that brow, and preparing ourselves for how that inner corner shimmer is going to roll out. Now, I did not actually plug my phone in, and it's warning me. It's saying, no, no, don't neglect us, or else we're gonna die on you, right? We're getting a lot of phone exercise. I mean, I'm not mad at the way that this looks. It definitely looks lifted and interesting, and we haven't yet blended out those edges as the makeup people do. But, you know, just looking into the magnifying side of this mirror, right? What's the perfect angle so that you can see what I'm doing and then I can see what I'm doing. But we do see that one little bit of our lid fold is just barren of eyeshadow. And it just makes sense. We're looking straight ahead to see where that lifted eyeshadow shape goes to. You know, some people cheat and put the piece of tape on there. We didn't do that. From here, let's find our eyeshadow palette and think about what kind of inner corner shimmer we should rock with, right? If that base shade is peach but reads pink on our skin and over our eyeshadow base, then the inner corner could be this moonray color, which is this kind of very pretty pastel violet, or we could go for this pink. Initially I was thinking this copper shade, but brown and copper, let's maybe rock with the brown and the pink, right? Let's search around and find some kind of paddle brush, right? We've been trying to keep our brushes clean. We've been trying to be precise about where we're placing product. You know, and we've been trying to create, I did wash this brush. Look, it's not quite as clean as I had hoped. Some people say wash your brushes with antibacterial soap. Some people say use Zote or Zote laundry soap because it breaks up oils. I'm not sure what the right answer is. I'm just looking around to find a paddle brush. We have this, what is it? Sonia Kashuk Petite Smudge Brush. That's not quite what we need. This one's a bit fluffy. Maybe this. This is our flat applicator end of this very delicious silicone finger-like eye soother. I don't find that this soothes the eye as much as it kind of helps precisely apply concealer. But if we take this, what is it again? Flat applicator, and get it into this color named Stella, right? Push it into the product. Make sure we get that onto our brush. And then we grab our mirror and try to give ourselves not a cut crease, but something that respects that brown, but also lights up the architecture of our inner corner, right? And that really does build a pink, very, very faint shimmer over top of that transition color, right? We're really trying to be bold with it. We are very pleased to not have to be at work. It has been a very long, I didn't even realize it had been 10 months. It's been a long 10 months. And, you know, as you know, I've been really thinking about next steps and things I'm working on and how to prepare for, you know, the next few months. Things that need to be done, things that, you know, are optional, things that we've been working on for years. We've made a lot of good progress with the community garden and being in touch with our local elected officials. It, you know, it really is a moment of institutionalizing, you know, this very important green space, right? So it doesn't get abused and taken over by elements that don't care about the elderly or about children or the community, right? People are leaving needles and human feces lying around on the sidewalk in front of the children's soccer field. That is unacceptable. And, you know, if I'm the person that has to, you know, really put her foot down about this nonsense, right? Other people are around. Other people are irritated that people are hopping onto their balconies and, you know, breaking into their homes over there on Yucca Street. Other people are very upset that there are elements that really are trying to, you know, have a HQ for mayhem, breaking mirrors, breaking people's car windows, breaking hearts, right? Easter egg hunt went off without a hitch, but one of these characters who, look at how pretty that is, right? What it looks like in the pan is pink, but on my skin, it's reading as a very pale, kind of shimmery lilac, right? And I've been struggling with the shape, right? Between the outer corner darkness and the inner corner shimmer. Where exactly should that blend happen? And what is the most flattering shape for it, right? Kissing that at the innermost corner of the eye for brightness, maybe using the point of that brush to get it just under the lash line. Can you see me? I can see myself, but I want to make sure you can see me, right? We did drag our primer under there. And, you know, it's taken me a very long time to get to the point of even wanting to do my eyeshadow first, or really having a plan about eyeshadow that wasn't just random, right? I can't say that I was the most long-term knowledgeable about how and where and how best to apply eyeshadow, right? Here's a random lip brush that I salvaged from some palette. And if I look into this palette and think about, you know, some color to use as like a liner, right? Is this the right brush? Maybe for dragging it under the eye. What are people saying? It's reverse cat eye to make it dark under the eye and then go into a wing. Is it Venus, this very eggplanty color? Is it ultraviolet, which is this bluish purple? Or is it blue, right? Looking at this, maybe blue. I don't know if blue is as saturated as ultraviolet. Maybe we should rock with ultraviolet just to make sure it's dark enough, right? Scooting our other brushes out of the way, grabbing the magnifying side of the mirror, right? And scooching our little brush into the ultraviolet color, right? Just stroking along the surface, making sure that we have a good application of that color, right? On our little teeny tiny brush, right? And just thinking about doing teeny tiny brushes and teeny tiny things and getting this color as close as possible to the lash line, right? We don't want to drag the eye look down, but we do want to have enough payoff there that we, you know, kind of at the center of the pupil feel like we have, thinking about where our hood ends and our eyeshadow ends, thinking about where we could begin to build an eyeshadow line that comes out from that lower lash line, right? Is this the right brush or are we fooling ourselves, right? Are we taking that same color into the upper lash line and thickening up the base of those lashes? Is this the right brush or do we need to get into our favorite angled liner brush, right? This is a lip liner brush, right? In an emergency, it's better than nothing. But I don't know if it's going to give us the strongest stamp of liner color. But I'm not unhappy with that color or how the shape of it is looking. Here is the other end of what we used for our spoolie in that e.l.f. brow soap yesterday. And the other end is angled brow. If that's angled brow, maybe we should stick with our favorite red chrome BH Cosmetics liner brush. And this is, you know, I see that I have in my kit many other kinds of this brush, but I just never, and again, getting it on the end of that eye and stamping that color in there, right? Really getting a strong stamp, no wiggling, no, what do you call it? Small circles, but really just getting that sharp, strong application of color along the lash line. Should we try to kiss that waterline with powder? Look at that. Did you say sophistication? Did you say, you know, a makeup application that says, wow, this person knows what they're doing? Not too much dark, but it does make me wonder how that blue would have paid off as opposed to this eggplant, right? If we take that brush, uh-oh, that's too much. Should we use our beauty blender to take it off? Let's see if it works. Went a little bit too far, right? A little too far, but we can use our damp beauty sponge to just make things calm down a little, right? Is it too much light for you to see what I'm really doing here? We just didn't want the liner to be quite that long. Let's get into the other side. Kissing that into the shadow, right? Looking at where our hood ends of our eye and where the lower lash line is, and just stamping that color on, right? A little bit more length so that it suggests a longer eyelash. And if you were going in with individual or half of an artificial lash, then you would have many more fibers suggesting lashes and length and all of that, right? I think that looks pretty. And we're going to have to take it down onto the lower lash line like we did on the other side. Stars, I've been eating fiber, but I've been eating way too much salt, right? The kind of food that you want when you're working hard on social media can be very salty, and that's not the best for your skin or your health, you know. So you want to find ways to get that steamed kale and, of course, that raw pink pineapple into your diet. So, are we lifted properly? This line might be a little low, but we're trying to achieve symmetry, if not seamlessness. Now, looking at this shadow, if we're satisfied with what we've done with this beautiful palette, with these rich eggplanty, purpley, pinky colors from Pacifica, put that aside and we take some sort of fluffy brush from our friend slash enemy Jeffree Star and his collaboration with Morphe, right? The brush is clean, the brush is fluffy, the brush has hair that looks like, what is her name? Elizabeth, what's her name, from Theranos, who said that she intentionally made her hair look kind of raggedy and frizzy so that people would think she wasn't so glamorous, right? To kind of like mess up that perfect picture so that it would somehow play with people's expectations of her and her credibility as a CEO. So taking that brush, holding it by its tip just to be very gentle with delicate eyelid skin, and just start buffing out those edges to make them a little bit less harsh. We stamped that color on. Now we're trying to imagine a blend between that inner corner shimmer and that outer corner brown. Is there room on our lid for yet another color from that palette, or is this enough? Is the lift enough? Is the liner enough? Do we need or do we miss having something else, right? Just taking that brown over into that pink and trying to think about what the perfect blended line would look like. Is it a straight up and down line? I know it's not this. Is it this? Or is it something that you really can't put your finger on, so to speak, right? And then smoking out that eggplant liner, maybe on the lower lash line as well, with this fuzzy brush from Jeffree Star, right? Looking at that outer V brown and that bare patch right in our crease. Is there room to put another color in that crease? It almost feels like there should be a green or something surprising. But again, holding that brush by its end, right? Taking advantage of that frizzy fuzziness to blur the edges. That's what we're trying to do. Blur the edges, right? And really get a lifted shape, and then an outer corner V that's visible when our eyes are open, when our hooded eyes are open, and then blending that over into our pink kind of lilac shimmer, just so that we can attempt to achieve seamlessness, right? I kind of like my eyeshadow colors to show, and I've been looking at with interest at people who seem to shadow their eyelids by simply putting a kind of well-shaped line of something deeper than their lid color across the crease, across or above the crease, and that's about it. And then they add lashes and liner and all of that. Whereas I feel that I just sort of want shadow and architecture, especially of that outer V. But, you know, I'm developing my technique. I don't necessarily want a bright brow bone. It's not 1987, right? I think we're having a Y2K moment in makeup. You know, all those like frosty, purpley, monochromatic lids are certainly something to think about, but I'm not sure that we want to go there. So from here, are we getting back into that brow soap, right? e.l.f. soap brow from yesterday. I think we still have quite a bit of it on this brush, and we certainly have our dish of water, new water, because we do try to be hygienic, right? We dip our brush into our water, and let's just see what's left on this brush. We did get real aggressive with it yesterday. We may not need to apply a lot more product, right? See what's left on that brush. We did bend it. I think there could have been a more aesthetic way to bend it, but let's just scrub it into our brows. If you're a person who, like me, struggles with unruly brows, right? Let's get more water on it, and let's get more soap on it. I think where we messed up yesterday was we ended up with a lot of brow soap on our skin, and it messed up. It was one of the things that messed up our eyeshadow application. Sad to say. But you know, live and learn, right? We're not someone who has to draw on a lot of brow hairs, right? But the challenge is to get a product like this into the brow, give it time to coat the brow, and maybe set a bit, right? Really mess it up. I think the only place where our brows are sparse is the head of this right brow. Sometimes I'll add a few strokes in the beginning of the brow, but we're not trying to have like a perfectly rectangular brow. I have watched with interest some people on TikTok talking about not a straight up brow, but a brow that's up at an angle, right? But I do feel like the arch looks very aggressive if you have the hairs going straight up, but maybe that's what it needs to be. Maybe this is the fluff of the brow that people talk so lovingly about. Let's look at the other side, right? Let's use the other side of our brush because there's more soap over there. And really, what's nice about this product, right? I guess it's a dupe for the Anastasia Brow Freeze. It really does, once it dries down, it really does have a weight and a stiffness that I did not find with the Makeup Revolution product. And I do see, you know, it just kind of looks like body fluid of a certain sort on the skin. And that will definitely mess up the application of your other complexion and other products. But, you know, I'm not hating the way that this looks. I did feel like the Becca concealer yesterday was looking rather pale on our skin. And if the star of the show today is one of these Pacifica tinted serums, dare we go in with just a kiss of this Kevin Aquan Glass Glow Face Illuminator, right? If we are conservative and we take this product and shake it up and we think about the, what is that product from Charlotte Tilbury, the Magic Glow? It's almost like something that they say it can be worn on its own, but it's supposed to be somewhat of an illuminator layer that you can use under your foundation or your foundation type product. So we take the product, maybe get it into our dish. This is something that we apply with a brush or with a sponge. Maybe let's risk it all and try a sponge. Hopefully we shook it enough, because some of these products are coming out and it is just like, it's like ketchup, right? You just get pale liquid and no color coming out. So I hope that doesn't happen. Let's see. No, this has got some good consistency. I don't want to use too much. I don't want to look crazy. But there are some makeup people who are talking about layering all kinds of cream and liquid highlighters and powder highlighters and really getting a highlight look, which is very glamorous, but I feel like that is an editorial type look. It's not necessarily a look for, shall we say, regular human beings. It's not necessarily something that, you know, you want to, I don't know. If you're going to Ralph's, do you really want all that? You know, this is our brush that we use to apply our eyeshadow base, cleaning it off on our brush cleaner, which we washed today. It's part of the ritual of makeup that hopefully will not cause skin problems or anything of that sort. Getting our brush into this bronzy illuminator. So it's on the brush. If we put it in the highlight places, right? The high point of the cheek, right? Swirl that around. Maybe we get it onto the brow bone, right? Swirl it around on the other side, here on the cheek. That is a pretty color though. Swirl it around, whatever's left in the dish, put that on the brow bone, right? Is that enough? Do we need more? Whatever's left on the brush, let's get it onto that Cupid's bow. A little on the chin, maybe above the arch of the brow. And I think that is our very timid exploration of that. I can see it on my cheek. And what's nice is it doesn't dry out the face, right? What you're trying to do is build architecture that makes certain points on the face jump forward to seem more prominent. If from here we look at our skin tint colors, in the store I couldn't figure out which. This one's paler, this one's a little bit darker. Let's rock with the pale one. Shake that up, get it into our dish, and then onto our silicone sponge. Hope that's not too much. We were a little timid with the Kevin Aquan, but let's see what Pacifica has for us today, right? Silicone sponge, get it on there. Should we spray our face with a little water first? Is that a cop-out? I just like the way it feels. This is the desert after all. I remember when I first came to LA for an award that I got for writing, and I went to, it was an award show hosted or presented by the guy that played Oscar on The Odd Couple, Jack Klugman, and he was very, it seemed like ill with, I think he was a smoker. It may have been like throat or lung something, right? And I remember showering with soap, getting out of the shower and looking like my face was the Mojave Desert. And, you know, that made me appreciate just how dry it is here in the desert. So we're using our silicone sponge and a gentle stamping motion to get this skin tint across our face and hope that the color marries with our actual skin to give us what we call human color. Now, I don't think we're wearing primer. We did add that basically liquid highlighter, right? And that was pretty sticky there on the cheek. There's some adhesion between our silicone sponge and skin and the product. I think that looks rather pretty. Let's look into the non-magnifying side. Does that look beautiful? Or am I hallucinating? Dare we go in with another layer? Have I upended my fluffy brow? Give it a little zhuzh, right? Gotten hair, right? That very fluffy brow. Fluff it up. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to give these soap brows their moment. And I can see what this is kind of doing to enhance the volume of the brow. You know, sometimes if I'm not looking, makeup artists have gone and trimmed my brows, right, to give them a very, you know, flat edge, and they do it before you can even say anything. But my brows are quite long. They're Thufir Hawat long, if you know the Mentat from Dune. But, you know, I'm looking at this eyeshadow. I think we did something. You know, again, the angle of that blend is something that still perplexes me, but I kind of like the way that it's diffuse, but not unsubstantial, right? Diffuse, where does the shimmer start? Where does the brown and the pink start? Blend it together. Lifting, 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 drawing that brown out toward the temple, right? Resisting the urge to go in and add more, right? But like looking at how that eggplant shadow lifts and heads up toward the tail end of that brow. And it almost seems like the angle could be more sharply up, but then it's risking fighting with our crease. But I think as a practice, and just one little thin layer of that skin tint, it looks glowy and quite beautiful. Now, just that one little line under our eyes seems to be suggesting some darkness. What concealer shall it be? I do like the Becca concealer, but I'm not convinced that it's the very, very best for our under eye. But maybe let's just try to work with it since we're working with a new complexion product. Just a little dot on the end of our pinky finger, right? We're freshly out of the shower. We had to get all of yesterday's glitter off of our face because it was becoming a problem. You know, glitter can get just about everywhere, and if you don't remove it, then it's fighting with the makeup of the day, right? How is that looking? Sometimes people apply a lot more product. Just dipping our finger in a little water, people can apply a lot more, you know, product. across their face. Do we need to bring some of that Becca down onto the nostrils? Another little dot on the finger. Like, this is realistically how I do my makeup. I'm very, like, I don't know, sort of conservative about it, right? But adding that concealer right here at the outer edge of the nose, kind of stamping that around on the side of the nose, right? Other side. Oops, you can hear my stomach growling. I did eat before I started all this, but honestly, I don't know what time it is. I've been so caught up, you know, wanting to bring light into the inner part of the face. A light stripe down the very center of the nose. Maybe a little light here. Maybe between the brows, right? Stamping that on. Looking at the texture that's creating on our face. A little more water. You know, one wonders, like people talk about, oh, you have to match your water-based and your, I don't hate this, guys. I don't. We have not contoured. We just put a little concealer on, right? Should we put a little bit more concealer on to emphasize that jaw above the jaw contour and below the cheek contour, right? We get that in both areas. Just stroke that back and forth. Just a little visual trick, a little something to sharpen that cheek contour. Maybe a little bit more on the forehead, right? But just being quite painterly about it, right? Remember finger painting when you were a kid? Sometimes a brush can be fun, right? But sometimes when you really look at what you're doing, you really want that finger payoff. You want that warmth. You want that spread it around, feel it become even, right? If that's what we're doing, and we're getting it maybe a little bit up under that eye, just to sharpen up what has become these sort of midnight tones of purple, right? If we take that eye liner brush and look at our eye, should we reapply? Risky, right? We get that brush back into this eggplant shade, right? Both sides. And then look into our regular size mirror, not the magnifying side, right? Look at where the angle of the tail end of that brow that has not been extended and where that waterline is, right? It's so risky because we'd have to stamp it right over the edge of that hood, right? But that's a very different angle than the one that we started with, right? We take it where it wants to be vis-a-vis the tail end of that brow. Do you see what I'm saying? We're left with this curved effect, but you know, that's the hooded eye game for you, right? If we're really trying to perfect the angle and make it do what we want, is that just at odds with the architecture of our eye, right? We really want it to lift up toward that brow, right? And create weight on that lash line, right? With our eye closed, it looks right. With our eye open, does it look crazy? Other side. We also have the option to use some concealer to clean it up, right? Taking that brush, getting it into that ultraviolet color again. We haven't even dealt with the inner corner. What are we doing, right? We haven't even contoured yet. But looking at that, oops, looking at that brow tail, right? Going out from the eye is okay, But really, ideally, we would want this line to go toward that brow tail from our lower lash line, just for that lift. All right, stamping that in, thinking about that upper lash line, really working with tones of shadow. Is that too much? Is it too long? Should we have been satisfied just with a little modest wing out toward the side? I'm not sure, but we've done the deed now. Right? Some people say use that same shadow to make an inner corner flick. Let's try it. It might be messy, it might be wrong, but we're gonna try it anyway. Haha, because we're at home. Cops are outside. They can't get to us. Can't stop us. No one can stop us. We're just trying to make it do what it do, right? Inner corner, careful, stamp. Little inner corner stamp. Other side, inner corner, stamp. That one's a little longer. We're gonna risk it all and try to make it longer. All right, we don't want to put so much dark weight across the top of that lash line. I was listening to a really interesting discussion of drag makeup in the gym, and the idea that perhaps as women we are, kind of learning from and really emulating some really great techniques in drag makeup that create drama and a lot of strong looks, but it's not about whether or not you look natural. It's about whether you're looking the way that you want to look, right? Deep caramel as opposed to warm chestnut. I think warm chestnut is the darker color. And just sort of thinking about being intentional about our makeup, right? That is this enough drama on the lids, right? The suggestion of a wing, the suggestion of an inner corner flick. If I were looking over candlelight at a dinner date, would this be enough, right? Using our same brush that we used to do something. This was initially our lid primer, right? Taking this second micro blending brush, getting our dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury contour wand, right? This is the darker color, clean. The other one is quite warm, and we know we got to twist this a bit and then dot it in our dish, right? Let's let gravity help us. We're not seeing any color yet. Let's press it down. Nothing. 3. Is that enough? Let's press it down. Getting a little something. 1, 2, 3. This is our attempt to keep the applicator clean. Get some product, but not just rub it all over our face. But rub it into our dish, and then just try to use a brush to get what will be a contour bronze type shade, right? If this is a liquid, right, and we're wanting this liquid to wash across the cheek, this is a bronzer type shade. It's actually a concealer. But if we take our brush, right, get the edge into that product, right? Look into our mirror where we sharpened the contour to come with concealer, and just stamp that across the cheek, right? Other side, stamp it across the cheek. Symmetry, that's what we're going for, right? Was there too much product on the other side? Maybe, right? Use the back of the brush just to screen it down a bit, right? We're going over our skin tint, right? We're getting into dragging, which is a naughty, naughty move where we should stamp this, right? Stamp it along the jaw, stamp it along the chin, just conservatively getting it on that brush, stamping it on that double chin, right? We know if we made an error with that aggressive, with that aggressive cheek contour, we can screen it down with, I think that's Photoshop language. I did study Photoshop and Illustrator and things of that nature when I worked in animation at Nickelodeon. So that's where that language is coming from. Screen it down, make it a little bit more transparent, a little bit less heavy-handed, right? Sometimes when we see things pay off a little bit more aggressively than we would want, our impulse is to really kind of grind into it and almost, you know, disturb the... I actually like the fact that this brush has, you know, an edge where you can kind of make the shape a little bit thinner at the front. We're kind of trying to take off some of that product and redistribute the wealth, shall we say, down onto our jaw. You hear all that? You hear all that? I assume that's police, helicopter. There's always something happening, right? There's always something happening in Hollywood. There's always somebody somewhere doing something. Now here, I've listened with interest with people saying upward angle from the tail end of the brow, that's where your forehead contour should ideally stop, right? Shrinking that forehead, but not going too low with that contour shade, right? Stamping that on, up and toward the hairline, other side, going up from that brow, right? That you want the forehead to be its own plane. Now, I've watched a lot of people dragging their blush and their contour all across that temple, but what I understand is that you want the temple not to recede. Anything dark is going to recede, right? So you're kind of like making the front of the forehead, the center of the forehead, the front of the forehead jump forward, the sides recede to kind of shape that face. If you were wearing your hair down, you would naturally shrink the face. You would naturally kind of shrink the sides of the forehead with hair. But by having your hair up, you need a little makeup, right? Looking at our nose, right? Looking at that brow, taking that contour shade, trying to make those lines converge, right? Go toward the center of the nose. Not too wide of a line, using the edge of that brush, right? We're exploring our brushes. We've got a lot. It's time to kind of get them to get the players off the bench and get them into the game. See what they do, right? There's a lot of energy around parallel lines in the contour game, whereas I feel like with precision, those lines should be very, very close together and also converge, right? We also want to take this bronzer on along the divot of the nostril and kind of darken that and also darken the length of the nose, right? And then finally, maybe stroke off some of that heavy cheek contour, right? Other side as well. And then draw a line across the top of the nose, kind of trying to create a sense of a round button nostril tip, right? Not just being parallel lines. I see how naive that looks when I see people, you know, on their social media with that kind of contour. It's not the most sophisticated optical illusion that we're capable of, right? I think that we're capable of a lot more blend and a lot more subtlety, right? And a brush that has edges that are broad as well as fine, right? that maybe we want the front of that contour to be more fine, right? Cheating with our finger just to achieve the shape that we want that contour to have, right? Taking off some of it. We could also use a damp beauty sponge to do that. This is the same area I got into trouble with last night with my contour, right? People say stamp it over that. Just looking at how aggressive our contour is on our forehead. You know, trying to use the brush, trying to use brushes, trying to be in the brush game. But there's something compelling about the finger. We've ended up with a very brown nose, like we're playing a dog in a school play, right? We're looking at what we've done with our brush down on our jaw, and maybe we want to pull some of that color off, just so it's not so strong, right? Using our instruments, pinching them if necessary, right? Taking a little bit of friction to get some of that color, just screen it down, make it a little bit more transparent. And maybe that's what it is, that we don't typically use. That actually looks great. You know, we don't typically use beauty sponges, but that is perhaps what they're for. You apply with a brush or a finger or with the applicator, and then you use the beauty sponge to take it down to the level of blend. Is it blending or is it removing product? That's what I want to know. Let's be clear. Beauty sponge, is it blending? Are you really blending it? Or are you just kind of taking it down so that it's more of a sheer application? Is that the more precise language to use, right? As we think about sculpting away that double chin. Oops. And also doing something about this very brown nose. I don't want anyone to think I'm a brown noser. That is absolutely not something that I'm interested in being perceived as. But I can tell you there are a lot of people who are perfectly happy doing that. Is that better? Is our nose turning red just from harassing it with our sponge? That center line is still there, it's still bright. Just taking that very dark concealer shade that we've used to contour, screening that darkness down so that we're left with residue, right? Take a clean side of your beauty blender, stamp over that brightening concealer, right? Stamp under the eye, get rid of any creasing, stamp in the middle of that forehead, making sure that it's a new surface of our beauty sponge, right? That we're taking out any product that's too much color-wise or doesn't give us what we want. Cleaning up that eyeliner, right? Making it just the right shape, cleaning up under the eye, and sitting back and looking at what we have wrought. I'm not mad. We don't want to go crazy with too much powder, right? We've bronzed. Could we, in fact, go in with our 123 Smile palette in the medium shade range, right? Just there. Other side, right? Just right there where you could touch your teeth. You see it like a little stain, right? Just on the very tip of that brush in case we need to do something to the nose contour. And let's put it back, right? So if we use this brush, it has a little bit of a taper, and we take it up, right? Take it up, look at that, right? So we put down a bronzing concealer, right? Something warm, and now we're putting a cool contour shade, right? Anything left on that brush? Suck in the cheeks, you see the placement is right, right? We go back into that palette and sharpen up that nose contour just with the very tip hairs of this brush, this tapered brush. Just gently stroke across there. We just want a little whisper, a little suggestion, a little sharpening up, a little shadow that is more cool than it is warm, right? All these bronzers that look right in the mirror maybe don't look exactly right for what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to accomplish the look of natural shadow, right? Something that will blend up into the hairline, shrink that forehead, and also marry into our jaw contour, shape the sides of our chin. We don't want to take any length off the face, but we definitely want to erase any pizza and cupcakes that are dwelling in this pocket underneath our chin, right? We don't want an obvious nose contour, but we want something delightful to the eye, something that will make people think, oh, she's pretty. She hasn't been eating too many cupcakes. We get into our NYX Jumbo Eye Pencil in the non-shimmer shade of Milk, and we draw just the very thinnest line along the bridge, right? You can really see it. And then just a little something, a little smidgen right there on the tip of the nose. These little rivers going down from the nose, the Cupid's bow. A little bit across the chin, a little bit across the forehead, right? Maybe a little tiny kiss into the brow bone, right? Maybe a little, the new thing is to go up from the nose, that's supposed to lift the face. I don't know, right? It's playing with tones of light and dark. Blending that out from the nose, blending that into that Cupid's bow area. You know, we're trying to do something with cosmetics, not plastic surgery. We're trying to do something at the gym, not with lipo or hydroxycut or anything that'll give us a stroke. You know, I do wonder about people who eat all those or drink all those like energy drinks, like gamers, and they sit perfectly still making their hearts race. That can't be good. But just blending in those very stark white crayon smidges so that it just gives you the most exciting highlight, right? Exciting structure. Do we look purple? Do we look pretty? Does this look set off what is on our shirt? And if we are bronzed and contoured at the cheek and at the jaw, is it time for blush? I think it may be. So we did do an underlayer of illuminator, and from here, do we go cream or do we go we have a bunch of new products from Daiso. Maybe we don't want to mess with that. Do we want to go with this Milani color, which is like outrageously red? That might be too much. We have a bunch of powder products. We have different tones of the putty blush, right? What is the right color to go with that lilac on the lids? Process of illumination. This one is too dark. This one is peach. This one is a little more salmon. This one is pink. Maybe we're feeling pink. Bora Bora, right? Just so that it gives us, maybe that's too much. Maybe we should go with this more subtle coral, Turks and Caicos. And let's also get into a brush. I wonder if we can use our same, that might get too muddy. Maybe I was gonna use the same brush, but no, let's not do that. We have this Cala, it's like a blush brush. Maybe that's too big. Here's a smaller Morphe E46 brush. The head of that seems like the right shape and density, right? Not too dense, but enough. Tapping that on top of our bronze and contour, right? Getting it up near the eye, lifting the face, going up toward the temple. Right, I think I do like brushes for applying this better than I do like our silicone sponge. I love the silicone sponge, but maybe it's not the brush for all seasons. But thinking about marrying that color into all of our bronzing, right? Dancing it across the nose to give us color as if we've been out in the sun. Also along the hairline up top, so that we look like all of our face was in the same sun. And then getting it onto the chin, right? We're getting color in one of the places that we highlight and brought forward, right? Modern makeup is bringing the blush right up under the eye, right? So that it's not like some stark circle of white under the eye. But lean back and look at your work, right? Lean back and see, does it look the way that you think it should, right? In terms of the weight of the blush, how pretty it's making you look. You know, is it enough color? Is it color? If it goes too far, you can always go back to your beauty sponge. But instead of being shy about it, right? You can make sure that for the $6 you invested in this blush, the colors really show. And that, my friends, is the Staten Island influence. You saw girls in high school start to wear makeup. Oh, baby, they were letting those colors show, right? If you know anything about, I guess, what locally was called like Guidette or Cougine culture, that was definitely about some colors showing. And, you know, there's just something very regal about really being masterful about your makeup and really looking pretty and really enhancing your eye shape. You know, not for any like cultural appropriation, but you know, if this is the thing to extend the eye and make it look bigger, you know, maybe take a little bit of that blush, just screen it down a little bit. So it's not, the blush isn't wearing us, but kind of looking at that visual unity, right? People used to give all their makeup a good scrub with a brush, and I don't know if the brush is the right thing because the brush disrupts the makeup, right? We're stamping, we're adding layers, but to scrub things and, you know, I'm sure it might look cool. It's like how your makeup looks cool when you come back from the gym. And the last little bit, I know I did order some velour puffs. This looks so nasty, but I guarantee there's nothing on it except for powder. Just taking it, getting it into our can't stop, won't stop powder, looking at our inner, let's think about the inner third of our face, right? Wanting to just take off, to set our makeup, but also take out any like distracting shine, right? When I put on makeup and I go to work, often I'll put on, you know, complexion products, highlighter, maybe contour if I'm feeling fancy, and I'm surprised that people have been